Hello, I'm TMN, and welcome to today's movie review. Wait, are we still rolling? Oh. So anyway, yesterday we took a look at the 2001 hit film, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The film ended with Merry and Pippin, two of the Hobbit characters, being captured by Uruk-hai, and Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli on their trail. And Frodo and Sam had just begun their journey to Mount Doom. This film had a lot to live up to. With the success of the first film, people wondered, would Jackson strike gold twice? Sure, the trailers for this film looked awesome. Sure, they used the Requiem for the Dream music. Sure, I watched them 1,000 times as a kid, but come on, any bad movie can still have a great trailer going for it. The question was whether Two Towers would pull off as a great film and a great trailer. And today, we're gonna find out. This is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
To stand against the might of Sauron and Saruman, and the union of the Two Towers.
Thanks, Saruman, I just said that. Anyways, let's take a look at performances. Well, as I did with my Fellowship of the Ring review, I will not focus on every single actor in the film, but rather just the top of the notch ones. And who better to start off with than Andy Serkis as Gollum. Now, I have to say, I feel kind of sorry for him. It seems because of this role, he now plays nothing but motion capture characters. King Kong, Caesar from Planet of the Apes, you name it. But when you watch his performance in this movie, you can definitely see why. He does such a great job capturing the voice and the mannerisms of the character that sometimes it's hard to believe that that's not actually some actor they got off the street. A very out-of-work actor, granted, but still. And I can't even begin to imagine what the Gollum voice does on his throat.
My precious.
Never do that again. Okay. And of course I can't talk about Gollum without talking about the CGI. Now, say what you will, but I still think this character holds up really well, considering how old this film is. I still think the character animation for Gollum looks very well done. And overall, I'm glad they did such a good job on Gollum, because he's probably one of the most fascinating characters from the book. It's a very tragic story arc, and it's really interesting to see how the film plays it out. Next, we have Brad Dourif as Grima Wormtongue.
I have a date with a 6-year-old boy.
No, film, that's Child's Play, not Lord of the Rings. Yes, Brad Dourif practically plays the exact same character in every film he's in, but that has nothing to do with this film. But before I talk about his performance, I'd just like to make a quick side note. Gee, I wonder who the character Alfred was inspired from in The Hobbit. But yeah, Grima Wormtongue. What a weird, creepy dude. Who appointed him as the king's advisor anyway? He looks like the guy who'd poisoned the food. Hello, Mr. Wormtongue. Tell me a bit about yourself. Why do you want to be the king's advisor?
Well, when I was a young boy, I saw these two fish swimming in the water, and then there was an even larger fish who came and ate them. And I just thought to myself, too bad those fish didn't have a third fish friend to warn them to swim away from the bigger fish.
Okay, well, everything seems to check out. You're hired.
I will not disappoint Theoden.
Anyway, yeah, Brad Dourif just does such a great job at bringing such a weirdness to the character, and his performance is very well done. And honestly, as far as Two Towers goes, that's about it. Again, everyone in this film did great jobs with their performances, and the casting is still very good, but as far as the top of the notch acting goes, I'd say Andy Serkis and Brad Dourif take the cake. No, Brad, what are you doing with that cake?
I'm taking it to poison the king.
Well now, let's talk about music. Well, you already know my thoughts on the first Lord of the Rings film, so I think it would go to show that I love the Two Tower soundtrack. Now, of course, it is the only Lord of the Rings film not to have won the Oscar for Best Score, instead being won by... Why, Academy? But I have to admit, this is probably the weakest of the Lord of the Rings soundtracks. It does add a couple of new themes, such as the Edoras theme, Gollum's theme, the Helm's Deep theme. Yeah, that's about it though. But most of the soundtrack does kind of just sound like a repeat of the first film. Not so much in a bad way, it's just, it doesn't really feel like anything new is brought to the table. In many respects, I could definitely see why this is the one Lord of the Rings film that did not win an Oscar for the music. But overall, it is still very good. And even though I've listened to the Two Towers soundtrack the least amount of times in the entire trilogy, I can't say I wouldn't recommend checking it out yourself. Alright, in my last review, I already praised Peter Jackson's directing work. I already talked about how great the production design was, the costume and makeup, just the beauty of New Zealand, Middle-earth and whatnot. So I will now take this time to discuss why The Two Towers is actually my favorite Lord of the Rings film. And spoiler alert, you will not like the answer. Why do I like The Two Towers? I don't know, I just do. Can't someone have a movie they like without having to have some really long reason for it? I suppose if I had to go into specifics, I do love the Helm's Deep battle. The Battle of Helm's Deep is probably my favorite of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. So it has that going for it. But of course it also introduces us to the character of Gollum, who, as you know, I love. But I guess maybe the reason why I like Two Towers is because it has the best mixture of battle and slow exposition scenes. I suppose the first Lord of the Rings had too much build-up, which, yes, it needed, but at times it does get slow. And it seems like there's very little action scenes in the first Lord of the Rings. And then, of course, in Return of the King, it feels like there's a battle every 2 minutes. Like there's no time to sit down and take a breath. But maybe why I like Two Towers is because it blends the war scenes with the scenes where people are just sitting and talking very well, in my opinion. Or maybe it's just because it's the first one I saw in theaters and it was the first one I was familiar with, and maybe that's why I like it. But overall, it's my favorite in the trilogy. Sue me. Let's move on to my overall thoughts. This film has great performances, good music, awesome CGI for Gollum, great battle scenes, very enjoyable character development. It still has great costume design and production and whatnot. Outstanding directing by Peter Jackson. I suppose I could fill out the other 3 fingers, but I'll end by saying this is a good film. Altogether, I would rate The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Matthew, you should really think of a new rating system. Yeah, I know. Or at least something to put in between wow and Yeah, I know. Because in your last review of Lord of the Rings, you also gave it a but clearly you like Two Towers better, so shouldn't there be something like in between but it's not quite wow, like, oh, this movie is amazing, but it's like it's still better than the... You know what? Fine, okay? I'll come up with a new rating system. Thank you. But not today. Who are you talking to? Really? Well, that was weird. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit that like button. Also, hit that little bell icon to be notified whenever I post. Leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on the film. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. And as always, subscribe. I'm TMN, and until next time.